Hey. Lasst euch nicht von meinem kleinen Schweinchen hier irritieren. Sie macht so gerne ein bisschen so Grunzgeräusche gerade. Also mein Wunsch war es, eine vaginale Entbindung zu haben mit möglichst wenigen Interventionen. Nicht, weil ich sage, dass alles andere unbedingt total schlecht ist. Aber für mich ist das so ein Erlebnis, das ich gerne als Frau durchleben wollte, weil ich mir das auch sehr empowernd vorgestellt habe und schön. Ich habe mir auch im Vorhinein immer nur positive Geburtsberichte angesehen und fand es immer total emotional und bewegend und ja, konnte mir das einfach am besten vorstellen. Und ich hatte jetzt auch per se so keine Angst vor der Geburt. Ich habe schon Respekt vor den Schmerzen gehabt, weil ich jetzt auch nicht die allerbeste Schmerztoleranz habe von dem, wie ich mich kenne, auch mit Menstruationsschmerzen, die ich in der Vergangenheit hatte. Genau, aber meine größere Sorge war dann eher vielleicht die Länge der Geburt, wie es dann ist, wenn es über Stunden hinweg immer Schmerzen sind, ob ich dann auch positiv und entspannt bleiben kann dabei. Aber eine Art, wie ich versucht habe, mit diesen Sorgen auch umzugehen, um mit allen Eventualitäten letztendlich vielleicht gut umgehen zu können, ist, ich habe mich eben viel informiert, ich habe viel recherchiert, was bei der Geburt im Körper vor sich geht, was eventuell im Krankenhaus alles passieren kann, was die Hebammen und Ärzte alles an auch Interventionen durchführen könnten, falls bestimmte Fälle eintreten. Genau, ich glaube, da ist letztendlich eben, kann Wissen auch ein Stück weit Angst nehmen und wenn man versteht, was passiert, vielleicht auch besser mit diesen Schmerzen umgehen zu können, dass man nicht überrascht wird davon und dann vielleicht in Stress gerät oder unruhig wird, was halt unter der Geburt wirklich negativ sein kann, weil es den ganzen Ablauf der Hormone, die der Körper ausschüttet, vielleicht auch stoppen kann und dann vielleicht zu einer Venenpause führt oder Stress kreiert ja auch mehr Schmerzen letztendlich. Genau. Und deswegen war es dann auch mein Ziel, so Methoden zu finden, wie ich vielleicht meinem Körper auch suggerieren kann, ja, dass ich ruhig und entspannt sein kann, auch in einem fremden Umfeld. Ich hatte zunächst auch überlegt, in ein Geburtshaus zu gehen, aber da war ich in der 10. Schwangerschaftswoche, glaube ich, ungefähr um den Dreh am Suchen oder hatte mich da zu dem Zeitpunkt so weit informiert, dass ich wusste, das könnte ich mir eigentlich gut vorstellen. Aber zu dem Zeitpunkt war es tatsächlich schon viel zu spät. Also man muss, wie bei der Hebammensuche auch, da sofort, sobald man das positive Schwangerschaftsergebnis hat oder vielleicht sogar die Vermutung, nur muss man sich da anmelden. Leider gibt es da eben sehr wenig Plätze nur. Letztendlich habe ich mich dann dafür entschieden, in einen hebammengeleiteten Kreißsaal zu gehen. Das wird hier in der Nähe bei uns in einem Krankenhaus angeboten und bedeutet eigentlich nur, dass das halt nicht wie bei einem klassischen Kreißsaal der Arzt auf jeden Fall bei der Entbindung letztendlich dabei ist, sondern nur eingeschaltet wird, wenn irgendwelche Notfälle sein sollten. Und das ist echt eine super Lösung halt für Frauen, die vielleicht dieses ruhigere Umfeld brauchen, die da vielleicht sensibel dafür sind, in welchem Umfeld sie gebären und trotzdem aber die ganzen medizinischen Sicherheiten haben möchte. Und ja, meinem Partner war das so auch lieber. Ich hätte mir eigentlich auch eine Hausgeburt vorstellen können, aber das war ihm dann doch ein bisschen zu riskant, was ich auch verstehe, dass wenn halt was wäre, dann braucht es erstmal, bis man im Krankenhaus ist und so. Aktuell werden einem ja überall so Hypnobirthing-Kurse angeboten, wo ich ja aus religiösen Gründen erstmal vorsichtig mit war und mich da jetzt nicht angemeldet habe. Aber um was es letztendlich ja geht, ist so ein positives Mindset gegenüber der Geburt zu haben, so mit seinen Ängsten zu arbeiten zu können und den Körper mit bestimmten Atemtechniken auch beruhigen zu können. Und das habe ich letztendlich dann auch gegen Ende der Schwangerschaft immer öfter abends dann mal gemacht, dass ich mich hingesetzt habe und diese Atemtechniken geübt habe, die einem für die Eröffnungswehen und aber auch später für die Presswehen so empfohlen werden. Da gibt es YouTube-Videos dazu oder man lernt es auch, glaube ich, in den meisten Geburtsvorbereitungskursen oder man kann seine Hebamme danach fragen. Genau, und oft hatte ich mir dann noch eine Playlist dazu angemacht, die ich mir zusammengestellt habe für die Geburt, dass ich die Songs schon mal so ein bisschen verinnerlicht habe, die mich später dann an diese ruhigen Zeiten, wo ich so ein bisschen vor mich hin meditiert habe, dass ich da schon mal ein bisschen dran gewöhnt bin, mein Körper das gespeichert hat. Da habe ich Lieder ausgewählt, die mich beruhigen, aber auch Lobpreis, der so auch Wahrheiten von Gott über mein Leben ausspricht, genau wie so positive Affirmationen im Grunde auch ähnlich, genau, und einfach einen so im Glauben auch bestärken und daran erinnern, so Gott zu vertrauen, auch in den Momenten, wo man vielleicht verzweifelt oder wo dann vielleicht doch einen die Angst übermannt oder so. Es kann auch richtig gut sein, einfach mal alle seine Ängste und Sorgen aufzuschreiben vor der Geburt und um die besser abgeben zu können. Und was mir auch richtig gut getan hat, waren dann einfach Freunde und Familie, die wirklich vor der Geburt auch nochmal für uns gebetet haben. Ich war ja während der gesamten Schwangerschaft eigentlich immer recht fit. Also im ersten Trimester war ich schon oft schlapp und so ein bisschen müde und hatte so ein bisschen Morgenübelkeit, aber es war nie richtig extrem. Und ja, das Einzige war dann auch im dritten Trimester, dass ich öfter so Füßenschmerzen hatte am Schambein. Das liegt an den Gelenken, die einfach immer weicher werden gegen Ende der Schwangerschaft, wo sich der Körper auch vorbereitet auf die Geburt. Aber ich konnte während der gesamten Schwangerschaft Sport machen, so 2-3 Mal die Woche, was man nur machen sollte, wenn man auch vorher schon Sport gemacht hat. Nicht, dass man den Körper da so komplett neu herausfordert während der Schwangerschaft, aber es war mehr zum Ziel, um einfach so ein bisschen die Kraft, die ich hatte, beizubehalten und die Ausdauer. Und ich habe dazu gleich am Anfang nach alternativen YouTube-Workouts gesucht, von YouTubern, die das speziell für die Schwangerschaft machen, weil man sollte dann doch nicht mehr alles machen, vor allem ab dem zweiten Trimester dann, was vor allem die Bauchmuskulatur angeht oder nicht zu springen und so weiter. Aber man kann echt noch viel Sport machen und es ist eigentlich auch so ein Mythos, dass man sich extrem schonen soll während der Schwangerschaft. Also im Gegenteil, das hat viele Vorteile. Man kann verschiedene Beschwerden auch vorbeugen, die in der Schwangerschaft aufkommen, so wie Schwangerschaftsdiabetes oder Wassereinlagerungen. Und ich wollte vor allem auch Kraft und Flexibilität mir beibehalten, auch um für die Geburt einfach fit zu sein, weil es ja eine krasse körperliche Herausforderung auch ist. Und ich konnte dann im ersten Trimester auch noch joggen gehen, das geht da noch ganz gut und später sollte man das aber lassen wegen der Belastung auf dem Beckenboden. Ich kann meine Lieblingsworkouts auf jeden Fall mal verlinken, die sind alle kostenlos. Ich habe jetzt kein Programm mir gekauft, was man natürlich auch machen kann. Das schadet auf jeden Fall dem Kind nicht. Das ist geschützt wie von einem Airbag und der Körper kommt damit gut klar. Was man halt achten muss, ist, dass, wie gesagt, die Gelenke weicher sind während der Schwangerschaft und dadurch kann es leichter zu Verletzungen kommen, wenn man halt die Übung nicht vorsichtig ausübt oder nicht bewusst ausübt. Und was ich dann auch noch viel gemacht habe, sind diese klassischen Übungen auf dem Gymnastikball, wo man die Hüfte so ein bisschen dreht und mit dem Beckenboden arbeitet und damit hilft den Kopf vom Baby weiter in eine gute Position zu bringen und ein bisschen tiefer zu senken. Dabei kann es helfen, dass das nachher in der richtigen Position ist für die Geburt. Gegen Ende der Schwangerschaft sind wir dann immer auf ausgiebigere Spaziergänge gegangen, weil ich mich auch fit genug gefühlt habe und weil Joggen ja nicht mehr ging. Das soll auch wehenfördernd sein. Wir haben so verschiedene andere Hausmittelchen ausprobiert, die helfen sollen, die Wehen in Gang zu bringen, wie ganz viel Himbeerblättertee habe ich getrunken, Zimt gegessen, auch scharfes Essen, Sex. Aber ob das jetzt alles wirklich geholfen hat, kann ich letztendlich nicht sagen. Es wurde mir auch von verschiedenen Personen die Löwendiät empfohlen, in der man in den letzten 4 Schwangerschaftswochen vor allem weißen Zucker und Weizenmehl meidet. Und es geht dabei darum, dass man den Blutzuckerspiegel so ein bisschen versucht zu regulieren, damit die Hormone, die so die Geburt in Gang bringen, gut an die Rezeptoren andocken können. Und es soll dann dabei helfen, dass die Geburt zum einen schneller abläuft und auch schmerzfreier sein soll. Also es geht im Grunde nicht nur um weißen Zucker und Weizen, sondern generell um eine gesunde Ernährung, wo ich jetzt eigentlich auch die gesamte Schwangerschaft schon versucht habe, darauf zu achten. Aber ich habe diese Diät jetzt nicht total strikt eingehalten. Ich habe versucht, so ein paar Lebensmittel zu ersetzen. Wir wollen heute nicht schlafen. Irgendwie. Ich habe dann jedenfalls mir so ein paar Snacks gemacht, vor allem aus Datteln, so Dattelbällchen oder das als Süßungsmittel in so Brownies verwendet und so, weil ich Datteln jetzt nicht pur mag, aber die sollen auch gut sein, um den Gebärmutterhals aufzuweichen. Genau. Ob das wirklich funktioniert, keine Ahnung. Aber es war lecker. So it's 10 p.m. now, Friday night, the day after my due date, and we've been out tonight. We've been for a long walk today. It was beautiful weather. It was like about 12,000 steps. I've also even done a small workout in the morning, and I felt good throughout everything. But now since the last 3 or 4 hours, my belly is just been more and more often getting hard, and I've started just counting a bit and seeing how far also the contractions are apart from each other. Even though they're not strong at all, they're not even painful or anything, and I know technically you're not supposed to get excited and start counting too early, but it's just exciting because this never happened to me before. I have had some kind of practice contractions the last few days always, but just not so many back to back, and I just want to see now when I lay down and rest, because it's been a physically exhausting day, how it's gonna change, and if it's getting stronger or not, because I was told that's the sign basically when you relax and the contractions get stronger, they're serious, and if not, it was just probably from the exhaustion from the day, which would be understandable. But we'll see. Also es ist jetzt Samstagvormittag und diese Wehen oder was auch immer, die ich seit gestern jetzt regelmäßig habe, sind immer noch da und unverändert. Also es ist einfach, mein Bauch wird alle 10 bis 15 Minuten hart. Und ich spüre es aber wirklich kaum. Es ist wirklich nur so ein, also meistens ist es nur ein ganz leichtes Ziehen im Unterleib, wie wenn man seine Tage hat, aber auch da nur die mildeste Form von. Deswegen, aber weil das eben regelmäßig kommt und nicht weggeht, sind wir halt schon am Überlegen, ob das jetzt die Latenzphase ist und ob das vielleicht dann irgendwann in richtige Wehen übergeht. Genau. Aber wir müssen heute sowieso noch ins Krankenhaus und ein CTG machen lassen, weil es 2 Tage nach meinem ET ist und mein Frauenarzt ist aber nicht da, deswegen fahren wir nachher los und wir sind dann mal gespannt, was die im Krankenhaus sagen, ob die uns da schon Hoffnung machen, dass vielleicht die Geburt bald losgeht oder nicht. Ich kann mir jetzt aber nicht vorstellen, dass sich an meinem Muttermund irgendwas verändert hat, weil dafür müssten die Wehen wahrscheinlich viel stärker sein. Tom meinte so, vielleicht ist das halt auch einfach schon das Wunder von meiner schmerzfreien Geburt, dass ich davon kaum was merke, aber zumindest so eine so einen stärkeren Druck oder Ziehen oder irgendwas müsste ich ja schon merken, selbst wenn ich schmerzfrei sein sollte. Also das kann ich mir nicht vorstellen, dass man das nicht spürt, wenn es losgeht. Allein, dass wir schon angefangen haben, die Abstände zu messen, ist wahrscheinlich schon viel zu vorgegriffen. Aber ich kann im Moment ganz gut damit umgehen. Ich bin einfach gut drauf. Wir haben heute Morgen ein bisschen Worship gemacht. Genau, jetzt bin ich ein bisschen am Video schneiden, um einfach meine Zeit zu vertreiben. Und genau, wenn wir dann im Krankenhaus waren, gehen wir noch was einkaufen. Und ja, wenn das Wetter zulässt, dann gehen wir bestimmt auch wieder eine Runde spazieren. Ich denke nicht, dass mein Zustand sich so krass verändern wird heute noch, aber wer weiß. Because why not? We can trigger baby a bit with some spice. And then bouncing on the bouncy ball. Very overdressed for the hospital. That's Wilma and my look.
Only 2 days over the due date, measuring baby's heart rate and checking for contractions.
We're done at the hospital. Everything's okay with the baby. And for the first time I got to track 2 contractions on the CTG. What is it in English?
I don't know. The
Whatever
contraction scale thing.
The machine that measures the contractions and the heart rate. But they didn't get my hopes up at all. They were like, this could mean anything. Which I think they must say also so people don't go crazy and sit and wait around in the station all day long. Yeah, so we just continue life and see what happens.
Lemon curd crepe.
Tom is very happy now.
Soon to be the city where my daughter is born in.
Es ist Sonntagmorgen und wir laufen gerade zurück vom Gottesdienst und nichts ist passiert in der Nacht. Teilweise habe ich leichte Schmerzen, aber es ist noch nicht so weit. Ich habe aber noch Geduld, glaube ich. Und du?
Ich habe Geduld. Es ist eine schöne Zeit momentan. Yeah, we're just enjoying the time together. It's been very beautiful. The last time with just us two.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I feel chill, but everyone's stressing about it.
Yeah.
Doctors.
Baby is healthy, everything's okay. She'll come in her own time.
Yeah.
You're just having a relax in the park on the way home.
So I got my husband here now. This is Tom.
Hello.
To talk a bit about the birth, because we're both involved in it and we both have a bit of a side of the story to tell there. I feel like we're in it together.
Yeah, different perspectives, different emotions going through it.
Yeah, so I thought it's nice if he joins. Maybe a small trigger warning here. This is maybe not the nicest birth story. If you're about to give birth and you only want to surround yourself with the best and most beautiful birth stories, then maybe this is not the right thing to listen to. For us, it was an emotional journey. I think there's worse stories out there also, but yesterday we discussed that, we didn't like the reaction of some people to our story when they were like, oh, that happens, that's normal, it's quite common or whatever. It was not a very good comfort for us. Like for us it wasn't easy, but we're just grateful we got out of it well.
Yeah, we always prayed and hoped that, like, if it was God's will, that it would be a pain-free pregnancy. That was what we desired and prayed.
Labor.
A pain-free labour, and technically it was, at the end of the day, if that's a prayer answered, if that's God's ways of going about it. But
yeah, these days after we filmed, just after the due date, we went through up and downs those days, I would say.
Yeah,
it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, the waiting past the due date.
Yeah, there were like days when we were very excited, or it felt easy waiting because we kept ourselves busy and active, and then there were days where we were slightly less active, or it was hard waiting or not knowing when it's going to begin. I know I found that the hardest, just having to be ready at every moment, but not being over ready that I can't do anything else.
Yeah, but we generally enjoyed that we could still spend time together, and it was nice weather outside. We were out lots, as you maybe already saw. Yeah, and what was also nice is that Tom could come to all the appointments because his work already gave him time off since my due date.
Yeah, that felt really good, being able to support you and being at the appointments to understand, okay, what is the process your body is going through, learning more information, helping you prepare. I know I find the time before birth was really beautiful, and still, I know, a great just preparing time, almost like a baby mood it felt like for me.
I feel like it was kind of a bit of a protection and blessing that he was there at all the doctor's appointments for when I felt more emotional or worried, or frustrated. When we were there the third time that weekend, the I don't know what it's in English and German, CTG, that controls the heart rate of the baby, and the contractions still didn't show major contractions. And yeah, the days leading up to birth, nothing seemed wrong. The only thing, maybe looking back now, was the day before she was born. I noticed also that I've lost a bit of weight, which is very unusual because technically the baby should constantly gain weight, and so also my body weight would increase. And on the ultrasound my gynecologist made, she just noticed there was slightly less water, and she said the placenta has slightly aged, she could see, but nothing that would make her worry. Yeah, the day of her birth, I woke up in the morning and just went about my day. I did a small workout like I always did to keep myself moving, and I still had these ongoing contractions like every 10 minutes or so, and I just wanted to make sure I keep my body doing what it's doing somehow, and stretch myself a bit and whatever. And I just noticed that usually Eden would move throughout the workout, or at least after, especially when I had a shower after. I could feel her kick when she heard maybe the sounds of the water on the belly, also because I always shower cold in the end, and she would always react to that because I think they can feel a bit the temperature difference. And I did feel her then once, ever so slightly, but not much at all, and it freaked me out. And that has happened before, and when it happened before, there was no issue. I went to the gynecologist that day, and she checked, and her heart rate and everything was fine. And that happened again, so I was like, maybe I'm overreacting. But I felt so panicked inside, and I was just praying and literally just crying out to Jesus in that moment, because I was so scared, because I knew something was not quite right, and I kind of was praying through almost worst case what could happen. Yeah.
And that's
like,
when
I was just praying, like, God, please let her be alive. Let nothing happen to her.
Yeah. And that's when you gave me a phone call, because I was out that midday, and you let me know the situation, and I responded with, okay, well, I'll be back in an hour. You just do your things to help yourself, have your shower, do these things that you usually do, like after your workouts, and whenever I'm back, if nothing's changed, then we drive to the hospital. And yeah, so I arrived back, still nothing had changed besides this small movement that you experienced in the shower.
It was so hard to wait because your train was late.
Yeah, had a delay, and
it was horrible.
Made it longer than it needed to be, and that made me also nervous at the same time. But when I get back, you ate lunch, and I prepared, just putting all the stuff that we had prepared for birth, just in case something was to start.
I already started packing some things before you came, because I wanted to do something, and I felt like, well, we're 1 week overdue now. Who knows? Everything could happen at this point.
Then we started driving to Bad Nauheim, and we were there in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
We're also very lucky we had the car that day.
Yes.
Because we don't have our own car, we're borrowing one from a neighbor every so often, and sometimes he needs it for work, and I just don't want to think what would have happened if he was away for work that day, if we would have decided, come on, let's just wait another day, because I would have had my regular checkup anyway every second day. But that way we were like, okay, let's just do it. It's not that far away, it's 15 minutes drive.
One interesting thing that I found out after this whole situation was that our neighbour was actually planning on using that car that day, but then a friend of ours that goes to our home church group that we do each week convinced him to drive with her so that we could have the car just in case anything happened. And so it was kind of like, that was God's working, God's timing, and God's plan that we had the car that day.
I didn't even realise.
Yeah.
We arrived there, I just explained the situation, and they straight put me on that machine again to measure the heart rate and
the contractions.
Yeah. And so basically, as I said, the contractions would come every 10 minutes, and the midwife left the room because they had the monitor also in another room to watch the results. And when the next contraction came, I basically already heard her coming back to the room quite fast, and she asked me just to lay on the other side to maybe help the baby a bit.
To move around.
Yeah. And then she left again, and the second contraction came, and this time she came with a doctor, and she just explained me that it seems like the baby is not really in a good state right now, what they can see from her heart rate, and she brought over, actually I don't know if it was the second or third time they came, but they already brought
ultrasound?
No, they first put a needle in my hand, what's it called, but like an access to my veins so they can put liquids in my body, because she was worried that I maybe don't have enough water. And then she also came back to check with an ultrasound, and basically figured out that I didn't have much water at all anymore from one day to the other. At first it seemed like she still maybe thought about trying to stop my contractions so that she wouldn't be put under stress from them, because basically the dropping heart rate means the baby is somehow not dealing well with it, somehow under stress. I was just listening out for when the midwife and the doctor would run into the room next.
Yeah, I remember trying to tell you not to watch the machine, to not get your like stress, so you would stay relaxed, to help Eden to stay relaxed too. And so I remember just watching the machine myself.
Yeah, and the first time the doctor came, she still was thinking about maybe stopping my contractions somehow with these hormones, but next time she came, she was like, sorry, basically we just have to take her out. And like, it was so strange, like waiting for her. I was already getting quite emotional in my mind, because I was like, okay, something's really not right here. What's the worst case that could happen? And I realized basically maybe they just have to take her out via C-section. Like, they checked also if I'm at all dilated, but I wasn't, so that option was off the
table, wasn't viable. Yeah.
Anyway, but maybe it was good that I wasn't dilated, and I had to make the choice of like, do I risk waiting, or do we straight go for the C-section? But yeah,
I remembered like in that moment when the doctors and everyone was away, when you were in your emotional stage, we stopped and we prayed for Eden and prayed for your body, that everything would work together. And then we'll go further. Then a few minutes later they came in and said the only option we have right now, like the only information we have, is from the scans to show you don't have much water, the heart rate monitor, and the only option that they had in that moment was to do the C-section. And I remember myself in that moment getting very emotional and worried, because I feel like it's easier to trust God, because God created your body and the process your body goes through, but an operation, I don't know, in that moment really scared me or worried me.
The surgery?
Yeah, the surgery. And also made me quite sad because of all the hopes and all the preparation that you've done leading up to that moment. It made me quite sad that you couldn't experience it, because I knew that was something that you actually felt excited for and not scared for. And I found that always so beautiful leading up to it.
I mean, it's maybe a bit ironic, all the work I put into hoping that will improve my labor, and then in the end I had to just give it up to God as it is, and it was none of my doing in the end. How Eden's health was, how my health was, we all just had to give the trust away almost. It wasn't like I could tap my, do you say that in English? Tap my own shoulder? Or applaud myself for doing all this amazing preparation, and that's why I had such a great natural labor maybe, but yeah. So yeah, when they came, then they had to get the chef doctor to also give the approval to go, and he just came in and looked at it, and he was just like, yeah, just go, and they already prepared me to get ready for surgery. Like, it all went so fast. Maybe there for half an hour or 40 minutes, I don't know.
30 minutes beforehand, and then you were separated so they could prepare to do an injection from behind to kind of numb your lower body. But then that, for some reason, wasn't a viable option, so they had to do a full narcosis. So you had to be put... narcosis is also put to sleep. And by that point I was prepared. I was also in the surgery blue gowns. I had a mask on, I had a hat on, prepared to be with you, to hold your hand as you went through the surgery. And then just hearing that you couldn't, I couldn't be there, made me very emotional and stressed, because I had to sit in a corridor waiting for 10-15 minutes alone.
For me, at the point where that chef doctor came and they got me ready for the surgery, I almost felt calm. I almost felt like I already accepted it. I was And also it was exciting in a sense that we would meet even that same day.
That's what you were telling me when I was emotional.
That's also what I told Tom to kind of comfort him a little bit, like, hey, at least we get to meet our daughter today because we waited for that day for so long, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't feel scared of the C-section, or I don't at least remember that I did. I
remember being like, it really helped me how peaceful you were. Like seeing you were peaceful, going away, reminding me, hey, we're gonna see her today, we're gonna hold her today, don't worry, it's like, we're gonna be parents today. It's not the plan that we wanted, but it's God's plan, and that's what you kept on reminding me. And all the way till you came back to this after the surgery, that was in my mind, that you were peaceful.
Yeah, and you know what? For me, what gave me peace was knowing that Tom would be the first one to hold Eden, and that she wouldn't just be helped by a random nurse, or I don't know. I just know because he has a strong love for her, or a relationship to her already when she was in my belly, that she would take care of her well. And at least, I don't know, in my mind I just imagine how beautiful it is that he's getting to hold her first. Also, it was kind of your wish to have her first.
Yeah, my wish was to be able to help carry her out during the labour, catch her. That was my...
Okay, you didn't get to do that.
I didn't get to do that, but my first experience was the nurses called me. She was laid in a small bed similar to the one we have here, all wrapped up nice and warm. And then they led me to another room and pretty much laid with her on my chest for 40 minutes to an hour, just her laying there, calming her breathing. She was already sucking on her thumb. Like if I'm be honest, I couldn't actually enjoy it to the fullest because I really wanted you to be there, and I was like, and for me that 40 minutes felt like hours. I was so stressed and so worried that something was going wrong, that like I remember pressing the buzzer like twice, like trying to get an update, and then they were like, oh, she's now being moved to this room, the wake up room, where she'll be there. And then I rang the thing another 10 minutes later, and then they said, oh, she's still in the wake up room, she's coming. And every single small sound Eden made also made me worried in that moment, because I wanted you both to be connected, because she was already hungry, she was searching for food.
Yeah. And I mean, of the surgery I don't have much memory because I was in a narcosis, but just in my mind it was also like, okay, at least I'm not gonna feel any pain during the labor, at least it's gonna be this way. Or I thought for some people this is the dream birth, right? You just lay there, there's tons of people around you. I also thought if there's 10 people standing around you in these gowns and they're all professionals at what they're doing, like what could possibly go wrong? I don't know, a lot of things could go wrong. They also gave me quickly before birth, they quickly write down these things on the list, like this and this and this and this could happen, please sign here. Like, but it was so quick I couldn't even think about how
I don't remember that.
Terrible these things sound. This and this and this could be injured in your body, like this other organs. Or
they went through like a short talk of like, this is what the surgery is, we cut through these muscles. So you just basically understand it, but in that moment we were just like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, everything was already going on. There was no moment to think about it. And
yeah,
for me, yeah, I was just trying to pray when I was laying there waiting for them to start.
Yeah. During the 10-15 minutes of the surgery, I was just walking back and forth in this corridor, and then I just eventually just had to sit myself down because I was feeling too panicked or too uncalm, that I just simply was like, okay, I need to pray. So I just started praying, then started writing a poem, and I had Freddie's phone there and typing down my thought, and also my prayer for you and prayer for the surgeons and the people doing the operation itself. And I know that helped me to kind of pass the time and gave me peace to get through it.
I remember a brief moment when they brought me from one room to the other, and I I just remember the midwife was walking next to me, and I just kept asking her, I think, where's my baby or something. I don't know what else I did or said, or if I did weird things. Being still...
I wasn't there in those moments. The first time when I saw you returning, you being rolled into the room, and she was like, where is she, where is she? And
I think that's what I kept saying. Maybe.
Yeah, where is she? And then when I walked over and brought her to you, like, I think it was like for like a minute straight, you were just saying, why is she so small? Tom, why is she so small? Like, what's going on? Why is she so small? Or why is she so skinny?
Yeah. She was much smaller than we expected.
I know, because we were both quite large babies, and the measurements that we were getting the times beforehand showed that she was like a healthy weight. And when she came out, I just remember we seeing all of her ribs, and her arms were skinny, her face was skinny, and...
Yeah, she was under 3 kilos, which is relatively light. Like it's
for
still
41 weeks.
For 41 weeks.
Yeah.
It's quite light, yeah.
Yeah.
So but they don't know in the end now why things went the way they went, but it might be that just my placenta didn't work properly the last weeks anymore already, and just didn't get enough nutrients anymore.
And she was stressed, and the water was green, so that means she already pooped and peed in there, and then the water went off, and the nurses and everyone said that she was completely green, and
they first had to wash her,
wipe her a bit before giving her to me.
Yeah.
Then I think we had like 2 hours together where you got to have your first feed with her.
No, that wasn't 2 hours.
Or maybe an hour and
40 minutes.
I felt like it was maybe longer.
They gave me a moment to just enjoy my first moment with Eden, which was really beautiful. It's all a bit of a blur because of the narcosis also for me, but I guess all the emotions and stuff, it's pretty normal after birth. Little piggy. Yeah, and she immediately latched and was drinking, which made me really happy. Then at least I had that experience with her. I think they gave us a moment, even though they already knew they had to do health checks on her, because it's a bit concerning when the baby has been in this very green water for quite some time already, like the likability that the baby is getting infection through the bacteria of that is quite high. And so they put her on this machine to check her pulse and the oxidation in her blood. And basically after a few minutes of watching it, the midwife watching it, she was like, sorry. Like they were already planning to put us in a family room at this hospital, and kind of preparing the next steps of settling us in for the next days. But she watched this device for a little bit, and she was like, sorry, but we can't keep her here. That's the next shock for us. So basically this hospital, they were worried she has quite a bad infection because of the oxidation in her blood level wasn't good. And yeah, we had to be moved to the next bigger city.
They had a children's clinic.
Or just Eden had to be moved, and he asked me, hey, do you want to go there too? And I was like, of course I want to go there too. If Eden is moved, then I want to be there too. First I was just denying it. I was like saying, no, come on, please. Like at first I just couldn't accept it. I thought it's over now and we've made it, and we're all healthy. And then yeah, I was quite sad knowing that she had to go, and also then figuring out what that meant exactly is that we would be separated, because at the other hospital she would have to be in the kids station for the newborns that had health issues, and I would be in a normal station, and I couldn't see her the 24 hours as long as I couldn't get up and go over to the other station myself, because after the surgery you're basically bedbound for quite some time.
Yeah. And we did come back with the good news that they could be together at Frankfurt Hospital. but unfortunately like separated into different stations. But at least it's not like I had to see 3D for a few hours in one place and then drive somewhere else to see Eden. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been so strange. And then they picked us up basically with 2 ambulances because you can't transport a baby and their mom in the same one.
I remember that was very hard for me, knowing that it was too late of a time of night that I could go to the hospital because visiting times would be closed.
That night was quite horrible. Because like the drive itself was horrible for me because I was in so much pain, and that in that ambulance from every shake was so hard on my belly. And then that night also I got like zero information what they've proceeded to do with Eden, because it was nighttime. There was no doctors really checking up on us or giving us info. I tried to call there once, but they couldn't really tell me. Like the person almost didn't understand any German that I was talking to on the phone on her station, and it was just a horrible night being in pain. They just told us the next day we could go to that station and see her. So Tom arrived back as quickly as possible.
9 o'clock was visiting times open, and I was there like 9:15, 9:20. Came directly to your station, then talked with them. That was the first time that you actually stood up after the operation.
Yeah.
And had to wheel you over. It was maybe, I don't know, not far, walk between station. It was like 5-minute walk. And then we got to see Wilma the first time again. And it was luckily, like, because we were allowed to hold her, but she had a cable in her nose that was giving her oxygen. She had a cable in her arm that was giving her the antibiotics. She had a few patches on her chest that were measuring her heart rate, her oxygen, her breathing, and then another thing on her foot. And I remember it was just so shocking and so emotional seeing her with so many cables. It was just, felt like...
It was also hard to cuddle her that way, and held her, and we had to ask the nurses for permission to take her out. And I don't know, it felt very limiting and almost strange, like unnatural. Yeah, so basically that was the main part of the birth story, and that we ended up having to stay longer in the hospital because of her health. In the end was unfortunate, but yeah, luckily in the end she got out quicker than expected. The antibiotics, she only had them for 2 days, and then they saw that she was actually really well, and that the infection didn't really break out. She was probably just very weak because she lost weight, and yeah. So, but she managed it well. It was a couple of strange days in the hospital, but luckily Tom was able to stay with Eden in the same room from the second night on, as long as I was still kept in the other station until they allowed me to go. And for the time being, we just tried our best to have me come to the kids station as often as possible, to trying to breastfeed her. At night I was trying to pump because I was still quite weak to go over. I was just really worried for Eden, that she had that shock of this very quick birth, which can be traumatizing for babies, and then also being separated from us the first night, not being able to breastfeed her, which would have maybe been a comfort for her at the start. All that was really not easy for me, but she's such an easy, lovely to handle baby. She really didn't make it hard for us and not made us worry that she might be really traumatized from what she went through so far. She really seems fine, and we're so thankful for that. I think God really had the hand over her his head over her the whole time and protected her. So much worse could have happened. It was such a blessing we went to the hospital when I first felt we should go, that we didn't wait any longer, and that we feel so blessed by the doctors having the ability to just take her out so quickly. And the day we finally got out of the hospital was so glorious. It was such a weird atmosphere there, and because babies are constantly kept on these machines to control their heart rate, and you constantly worry about them, and it's so loud and noisy and irritating there. And when we got out, we were so over the moon. It felt so relaxing being at home. It was so calm and quiet, and the sun was shining, and we just wanted to go out and show the whole world that our baby is here. And we're really happy, and life's been beautiful. The last weeks, they went way too fast. Like, Tom has 1 month off for his dad leave, and we're in week 3, and it goes by so quick.